My issue is I'm struggling with hat hair this season, this winter season for podcast
how
recording.
How are you struggling with hat hair?
I have bad hat hair when I wear a hat in the morning because it's cold.
So you're a wearer of hats.
I wasn't for a very long time, and now I am. Just like the umbrella thing. Like I never used one, and now I use them.
Naomi is not a wearer of hats.
It's a hair thing, really.
Yeah, that is why.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't care. I will suffer through it. I'm like, aren't you cold? I have to wear a hat because I have no hair.
Same. Yeah. Shockingly.
Yeah, it's like really,
not an
really
issue
cold.
You guys deal with.
Really cold.
The hat hair.
Well, yeah.
We have other hair issues, but not the hat hair.
Yeah, exactly. All right, you ready to start this thing?
Yeah,
again?
yeah.
All right,
Let's do it.
From VinePair's New York City headquarters, I'm Adam Teeter.
And I'm Joanna Sciarrino.
And in Seattle, Washington, I'm Zach Jabal.
And this is the VinePair podcast. Joanna, what you been reading?
What have I been reading? Well, I want to talk about our holiday cocktail countdown.
Please.
Because that just launched on December 1st because it is an advent calendar of sorts. Basically, one cocktail every day from bartenders across the country. Very cool project that we've worked on. This is our third year doing it. So that's really fun. That launched this week. And then I really love the piece by Ali Francis about matcha. Like, how have we lost matcha? Have we ruined matcha? And she kind of explores like how this thing which was meant to be like a slowly grown ritual, has now been like totally commodified. And in my opinion, like ruined globally.
Globally destroyed. Maybe like to the benefit of Japanese economy in some senses, but also like to the detriment of the culture, right? Like, what are we doing?
I thought she made one really interesting point that I hadn't considered before, which is that for a lot of consumers, like they don't actually know what matcha is, but just associate like anything green with it.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't thought of, but wow.
That's crazy.
So devastating.
Wow.
I thought she did a really great job with that piece, though.
What about you, Zach?
Speaking of colorful things, I liked Jake Emmons' piece about the Bulls company's attempt to make a blue curacao that doesn't suck. I'm kind of curious to try it. I enjoy a brightly colored drink, I'm not going to lie, even if sometimes that involves a little bit of compromising on quality, but it would be even better if it could be just as delicious as a non-brightly colored drink, but bring that to the table. So interesting kind of look at, obviously their intentionality behind what they're doing there was to make something that was not just another curacao, but had some additional flavor and depth of flavor and complexity that would be maybe more embraced by bartenders, but would still give that color pop. So I just enjoyed it, and not a product I was aware of. So I will have to keep my eyes peeled for some on the shelf one of these days. How about you, Adam?
Nice.
I've been reading emails from listeners, and I'm going to read you one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good one. I like that.
So we got a really amazing email from a listener that I want to read to you guys. I'm not going to give his name because he asked that we not, but he has been a listener for a while and reacted to our innovation episode. So let me just read what he wrote. Hi, Adam and Joanna. No, Zach.
Hurts.
People just don't even know he exists on the podcast. You know what I'm saying?
I guess not.
He only talks for half the time.
We're going to have to check the stats on that one.
Okay, anyways. I enjoyed the podcast conversation about why innovation takes so long in the drinks business. I started reading VinePair years ago because I worked as an innovation consultant, and your site and podcast helped me look smart when speaking to food and beverage or CPG clients. I'm now in-house for a healthcare company's strategy and innovation division, but I still keep an eye on VinePair and listen to the pod. You hit on something big that is often lost on people. For anything produced at scale, chasing trends is nearly impossible. I had a fast food client tell me it took 4 years for them to go from an idea to putting a product on their menu. Most established F&B brands move at a similar pace because of sourcing, operations, and logistics. Good luck capitalizing on a trendy flavor profile at that pace. The only notable innovations I saw in alcohol while working with large companies in that space were in packaging and operations tech. The last comment I have is that these companies have to think of innovation as a continuous process, not a one-and-done thing. It's hard to predict which products and brand evolutions will catch on. So the ones that want to build a brand have to be good at churning out new ideas and testing them, maximizing opportunities for lightning to strike, basically, which I think is great. And then all the best, and then his name. I think it was really a great email because it reiterated what we were saying, which is that like a lot of these things that look like innovation are actually right place, right time, right? And it's that you continue to, and look, there is forward-looking data. We have forward-looking data at VinePair that we, created through our algorithm that, we may or may not license to some companies if they would like to talk to me about that. But that's still really hard. And a lot of it is taking swings. But yeah, if you realize, right now in December, let's say that the new trend is about to be, I don't know, peppermint flavored everything, like good luck. Because by the time your product comes out, no matter if, as he's saying, alcohol, fast food, et cetera, like you're going to be cooked. And I think the other thing that he brings up that is a really good point, and one that I actually want to reiterate for the person that initially posed this question to us is like, I think in alcohol, we have this tendency in every industry to think that everything that's happening is only happening to us, right? So it's only alcohol that can't innovate fast enough. It's only alcohol that can't do this, that, and other thing. And what he's saying here is like, no, it's everything. And, I think about that even from the standpoint of, and this is going to be crazy because we talk about it, but Ozempic. So we've known about Ozempic as a compound since the 80s. We've known about GLP-1s as a compound. They've been testing drugs since the late 80s, early 90s that have GLP-1 in them. It's just that finally we had a formulation that they figured out how to keep in the body for long enough, and then it all hit at the right time, right? Innovation takes a very, very, very long time. And yes, that's a pharmaceutical, so also something that takes for a very long time.
And stuff.
But I think even the nerds example that was originally posed as part of the question is like, well, nerds is everywhere and, all that. Yeah, but like, again, they were there and they kept, I'm sure they tested a ton of crap that none of us remember anymore because it wasn't right for the moment. And then they hit on stupid nerd rope and that was it. But like that, again, someone had to have the idea before it ever caught fire. And I even think in terms of like, going back now to this idea that seltzer hit really fast, actually didn't, remember? And we're going to talk about this. ABI had the original and it bombed.
Yeah.
It bombed. And then there were people that saw they were doing it, like, we should try this too. And it's bubbling up at this point where like, then White Claw was right place, right time. And at the same time, Gallo was there with a competitor that was using actual spirit, but there were other people that had tried this before, and so like, that's how this works. That's how things happen. So I really appreciate the email. So what we're going to talk about today is a little bit along those lines. So it is that news that is broken since we've departed each other and now we're back together post Thanksgiving. Yeah, weeks ago
at this point. Yeah,
that is reported that Anheuser-Busch is going to buy BeatBox for around $700 million.
Yes.
It's surprising to me that it's taken this long for someone to buy BeatBox for as successful of a brand as it is. I think what's interesting about often purchases of brands like this is usually like you think about like where's the value, right? Like what value is Anheuser-Busch going to take from this purchase? And actually like the value all goes to the BeatBox shareholders, right? So they've finally gotten their payday. Anheuser-Busch probably won't see the value of buying BeatBox for decades if they can even figure out how to grow it beyond what it already is, right? To make back, but so they're purchasing it for a lot of other reasons, right? One is they don't want anyone else to have it.
Right.
Two is
an RTD in their portfolio.
Right. Two is they need an RTD in their portfolio, et cetera. But the idea that they will now make BeatBox even double or triple its size, we won't see if that's possible for a very long time, or they're buying enough that they then have a payday in which some of their portfolio is purchased, or they are purchased, who knows if AB InBev will ever get purchased, become even larger, but like that's usually what happens, right? So this purchase is a great payday to the founders and the original company. Anheuser-Busch, like it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm also like, I'm very skeptical, to be honest with you, that Anheuser-Busch knows what to do with this thing.
Right.
And I say that from one case study, and that's all I have, but that's Babe. I just am not convinced that Anheuser-Busch understands how to run a brand that has wine as its base.
Yeah.
And I know that is like, so people might think that's silly, but my point of view is that like it's a very different supply chain. And I don't think ABI understands that supply chain, at least in America. And yes, some of the distributors will be the same, et cetera. But I just, I'm not convinced they knew that they did anything good with Babe at all.
I mean, what happened with that?
They
it was
ruined
in stadiums,
And
right?
It was in stadiums. It was like they pushed it really. And again, I don't know that they've done. Name me something they've acquired recently that's gone well. Cutwater?
Yeah.
That's it. And so, I mean, maybe they're just going to follow the Cutwater model, but they also bought Cutwater when it was a lot smaller. They're buying a behemoth.
Yeah.
And I'm very skeptical, but I'm curious what you guys think about all this.
Go, Zach. You've been dying to talk about this for weeks, I know.
Yeah, well, I think it actually ties back in, as you sort of mentioned, Adam, to this conversation we've been having about innovation. And to me, purchases like this are such clear indicators that companies like ABI really struggle at this kind of product innovation.
Yes.
Because you're paying what feels to me like, at best, a top of the market valuation, if not well above that, for something that, like, I think has obviously been very successful, but feels, I could be proven wrong on this point, but feels kind of capped out where it is as a market right now. Maybe it grows somewhat, but 2x, 3x growth feels kind of hard to picture, especially as, you said, Adam, with some real doubts about ABI's ability to, in particular, drive that kind of growth for a product like this. To me, it's more like, this is a thing that's succeeding right now, that has market share, that's doing well. And so there's a kind of like, well, we want to buy it. Maybe we believe there's upside. Maybe we think we can get it into some channels that it's not currently in, because we do have a lot of that kind of capacity in our, within our company and for some of our products. Mm-hmm. But it's like, you're paying at this point, to me, it says like, I don't know, it's like the Dow purchase by Treasury, right? Like, you're paying a lot of money for something where it's a little bit hard to see kind of where it's going, how it gets a whole lot bigger. And in some ways, maybe you're doing it because you as a company have struggled to create something of similar heft, right? And, again, we talk about this in the innovation episode a little bit, but I think, it's maybe whether it's because of the slow pace or because, companies of this ilk don't treat product innovation as an ongoing concern. It's sort of we're going to try one thing and then we're going to try another, as opposed to a bunch of different iterations, maybe one of which works.
Right.
You end up instead feeling obligated to purchase something that has already done all of the hard work, all of the growth. And again, maybe if your time horizon is long enough, this is a valuable asset to own. Again, I think this space in the market churns quickly, and what's popular now, I would not put a lot of money behind BeatBox being really viable 5 years from now. I mean, it might. I have no idea. But I think we've seen in seltzer and in other, RTDs that there's a lot of turnover. There's just, something else comes along that is flashier, that is maybe better quality-wise, that's cheaper, that's better marketed, et cetera. And things that were really popular 3-4 years ago are kind of already, shells of themselves. And so, again, it's surprising to me, and when this news broke, not that BeatBox was being purchased or even that ABI, but just the dollar figure, and kind of, I would be, in trying to read some of what they are saying about this purchase, it just has seemed to me like, it's likely to be another boondoggle.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is exactly right. Like, they purchased it for this very moment.
Yeah.
And I think that it signals like their attempt to be more relevant to drinkers today, because I think for all intents and purposes, AB InBev is kind of like
besides
irrelevant.
Yeah.
Besides Cutwater.
Well, and there need to be like a total beverage company, not just basically a beer company.
Exactly. Just like everybody else is a total beverage company, right?
I think the other thing, as I'm thinking as you both are talking, the other thing that this exemplifies for me is how comfortable alcohol companies get and how cautious they are, and how that actually hurts them in terms of not only innovation and the speed of innovation, all these things I'm talking about, but then puts them into this place where the only way they're ever able to make a purchase is when they feel comfortable enough that the brand is at this level. So, for example, right?
Without taking a chance on it before it's grounded.
And I think the reluctance to take these chances actually hurts them in the long run, because and the issue here, right, is by the time the brand is proven, it's so expensive that, as I said earlier, you're going to have to do so much work to make that purchase pay off for you.
Yep.
And it almost often never does. It almost always never does. right? So even you look at the struggles that are happening at all these other major companies that have purchased big brands over the last decade for $1 billion, for 100.
Classic Ballast Point.
Yeah. 200 million at, there's brands at all the big places, Diageo, Bacardi, Pernod, et cetera, that were purchased for a lot of money that are perceived to be struggling according to the street and according to investors because they're not, again, still on this double-digit, triple-digit growth cycle. And so it's making the companies look bad. But the companies didn't want to buy these brands until they were quite large or quite well-known. And Diageo tried to hedge against that risk in the past with Distill Ventures, where basically they said to companies, we're going to fund you now. You have to grow on your own. You have to prove on your own, but we're going to lock in the purchase price now. So we're going to still get you for a very good quote unquote deal.
Yeah.
So you're making, kind of a deal here that you're going to get bought. You may not get bought for the fuck you money down the road, but you're going to get bought for a nice check. But it's also going to be better for us because you're going to now be at a growth size that we need to justify purchasing you, right? But we don't have to take on as much risk because you're going to still operate it, right? So we don't have to immediately bring you in and have our brand managers run you, et cetera.
It sounds expensive.
But then they still had to invest in it the whole time, which is why ultimately the new CFO killed Distill. I really think the only way to do this in a way that is potentially more beneficial to these companies is taking those early risks when you identify these brands that are potentially on to something, but maybe they're only in a few states, but they seem to be growing in those states, or they seem to have their finger on the pulse of 1, 2, or 3 other things in the industry. But that is way riskier, right? Now I'm asking brands to basically operate the way Distill was, which is as a VC, right? Venture capital, early stage VC takes very, very, very big risks for reward. So you'd be asking an ABI to buy 6 to 7 of these brands a year and see which ones take off. That's much, much riskier. But I actually think the amount of money that you would output is way lower because at that early stage, right, a founder is willing to take less.
Exactly. Yes,
right?
cheaper
So
for you.
It's cheaper. So, that's ultimately the move, or strategically invest, et cetera, for innovation. Because now, like Zach is saying, you're at the point where BeatBox could be fully saturated. It could be where it is.
I don't think it is, for the record.
No, but it could be.
But it could be.
So much bigger do you think it can get?
Well, I just think that while it's grown quite a bit, it launched in 2011, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been around for a while, but think about it.
14 years, 15 years.
Yeah, but think about it. The growth that it's seen has only been really recent, right? And I feel like there are still a lot of consumers that don't know about BeatBox.
But I feel like BeatBox, if we compare BeatBox to BuzzBalls.
Yeah. Okay. Go on.
The BBs. I think that BeatBox speaks to a moment of C-store convenience. Yeah. Right? Whereas BuzzBalls, and I saw this when I was home in Auburn, Alabama, and went into, saw the big balls in the Walmarts and stuff. Mm-hmm. I think is at the right place, right time because they look like Borgs. And I saw students on campus during the Iron Bowl carrying around either Borgs or big balls. Mm-hmm. Now, whether that's luck, et cetera, I think there's more of a cultural moment still for BuzzBalls than there is for BeatBox. Now, I also think Sazerac purchased earlier, right, in the life cycle of BuzzBalls than, ABI has in BeatBox. So I think that, again, they're taking a little bit more of a risk. They're having a little bit, but that risk also is allowing for them to also do more innovation. What are you really going to innovate around? More flavors? Okay.
Yes, more flavors.
The big box? Okay.
Yes.
So box wine, cool.
Different bases. I think they could do that very easily, right? And I think also we're forgetting that the format is very unique. The Tetra Pak is very unique. And those are also very, they're on the rise too.
But the beauty of BeatBox, I think BuzzBalls was a gimmick that then became a phenomenon. It wasn't convenient. The beauty of BeatBox was convenience, right? That is, when you read all the initial case studies, they understood that a wine base allowed them to be in C stores in most places. Yeah. If you start playing with bases that are spirits based, et cetera, that kills this brand. Because then even if it's just small, it just won't grow in the same way because you're going to be restricted where you can buy it. I mean, I've always said, I think if a spirits base was allowed to be sold in most C stores, High Noon would be way more massive than it is.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I think the only reason that it's actually still quite large for how annoying it is to purchase it is that it's a quality product that people have determined they like, right? And feels fancier than the other seltzers. And they've done a very good job at brand building there. But like otherwise,
they could go malt-based.
But then it kills the flavor profile. Oh, you're talking about BeatBox.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, I think the wine flavor profile is probably better.
Well, I'm just saying this is what I think ABI is going to do.
And
they're going to try malt-based. They're going to do flavor extensions. They're going to do variety packs. They're going to do the same playbook on this brand. And they're going to bring it into stadiums if it's not there already.
Like they did with Babe.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that there is maybe a runway for some amount of growth, maybe not as much as we've seen in the past decade, or in the past 5 years, but
I mean, the biggest question you have with all of this stuff, because you're basically what you're saying, right, is that, you believe there is still some innovation potential, like they see innovation potential, there's things to do. I think the other thing would be, which we don't have, the inside scoop of here, is like how much when this purchase happened, were they able to talk to the company at this point and say like, are there things that you've already mapped out 5 years down, 5-10 years down the road that you really want to do that you think would grow the brand that all you need is cash for?
Surely they have those conversations before they buy a brand like this, right?
Yes, but sometimes the brand immediately gets absorbed. Other times the brand gets, and that works and doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there have been plenty of stories about how initially with the Diageo purchase of Casamigos, there were positives to allowing Casamigos to be independent, and then there were negatives. Why were there negatives? Because Casamigos was pretty much also competing against the other tequilas in Diageo's portfolio because they were operating independently. So once they bring Casamigos into Diageo, then it's like all the brand teams are talking together, right? When you have this happened with all these different brands. Patron was allowed to operate separately for a very long time before being brought into Bacardi, and like often, yes, that's very good in the beginning, but then can be negative. But the reverse is also true. Bringing the brand immediately in can also disrupt lots of plans the brand has had, lots of relationships the brand has, right? Because all of a sudden you're trying to switch brand managers, personalities, who's in charge, yada, yada. So like both things can have issues, which is why I think it always can be messy unless the brands are smaller. But there is this huge resistance amongst most of the large bev alcohol companies to buy on the small side. But again, my argument is, I think ultimately, if you take the amount of money you would spend on a BeatBox and you spread that out across a ton of brands instead, I think you would have more wins. You're taking more shots on goal. You're going to have to do a little bit more work. But sometimes all these brands need is being put through your sales channels, your pipeline, your support, your manufacturing, right? To just help them trim costs. And then they keep running the marketing with a budget almost the way Diageo was playing with Distill, where you still have these brand people, they kind of become brand managers of your company, running the brand, but having a larger marketing budget, et cetera.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, we're going to give this brand 3 years, 5 years, whatever. This is what the investment looks like. And again, for $700 million, I think they could have taken instead, 14 brands at a $50 million investment each, where you're buying the brands for 15 to 20. Because I'm telling you guys, that's a price that I think most founders of small brands would take in a second.
15 to 20
million
dollars.
Easily. A lot of these small brands. And you say, so you don't even have to invest 50, invest 30, right? 10 million over the next, 3 to 5 years. Prove that it can still grow and keep it, and you will be way further ahead potentially than buying. But again, I think this is more not just that they want to buy something that's growing. They want to buy what they think is a category.
Yeah. And
they want to buy it before anyone else can. My biggest shock is that it's taken this long.
For sure. Yeah, I agree with you.
Unless people have really sniffed around and there's something that people haven't liked. Or it's the founders who are like, we know we're worth more money than this, right?
Yeah.
That I think maybe initially first 3 to 4 years, maybe you probably could have gotten them. But then they're like, no, now we've had massive success. That's my argument, right? And then it's like, well, now, no.
Yeah.
Now we're going to roll.
Adam, I want to ask you a question that I hope you can answer, and certainly you too, Joanna, if you have thoughts on this. But a thought occurs to me when you're sort of laying out, and I agree with this idea that it seems sort of silly for companies like ABI to spend $700 million on one product and one brand as opposed to spreading that money around across a much larger number, hoping to hit one or two of them big. Do you think it's just like that buying something that's already established, even if that ends up being a failed investment in a sense down the road, is just easier to explain to shareholders,
1000%.
to the board,
That's what I was gonna say.
And that to me is such a weird piece of this. Like, it does really feel like failing a bunch on a small scale is going to be received worse if you're, the leadership or whatever, than one big purchase not going well, even if that is objectively a worse way to run your business. Like, it does feel like there has to be some incentive structure here that's kind of fucked up that is saying like, because again, these people are making, certainly making decisions with the long-term health of the company in mind, hopefully, but they're also making decisions with their, short-term stock price and their own job security in mind. And if the way that the, street and everything is responding to this is like, we'd rather have you fail big than succeed small or something, that does seem kind of weird.
Yeah, I think it's a much easier story to tell though, because then when you get on the earnings call, you can say,
this was a winner. I don't know why it didn't work.
Or if you look at, in our space of media, right, and all the different media purchases that happen of these legacy brands, everyone's like, what? No one's reading this anymore. Why is there another purchase of it, et cetera? But it's because it's a name that's known, and a lot of people, even investors, aren't paying that close attention to like what the actual readership engagement, et cetera, of the property looks like. All they're saying is, oh wow, you bought People.
Right.
That's awesome.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. You bought Food and Wine. That's awesome. Like, these are brands that we know have been in decline for decades, but that is something. You look at what's happening right now with like, the Paramount deal, and now the bidding war that's happening around like HBO, all that stuff. And these are brands that, again, everyone is in agreement, like, should not be worth as much as they're worth, but they are able to be worth that because they are well-known brands that people can say, okay, well, yeah, I know it's a lot of money, but like, come on, I bought HBO.
Right.
And I think that's why. Yeah, you can say, yeah, we paid $700 million, but like, it's BeatBox. It's everywhere. Like, VinePair's covered them.
Right.
Like,
pretty much.
It's a big brand. And yeah, instead, if you, I'm going to not pick on a little brand, but I don't know, like Ume. I think Ume it's like a plum aperitif, right? If you say like, we just bought them, people will be like, huh? Even though that might be a better plan.
Right. But then think about like Montucky Cold Snacks and Whiny Baby.
But those are the only two I've seen.
Yeah, but those
and
are
Montucky
like,
was pretty decently sized.
we don't have the disclosed like purchase price for either of those.
Yeah, and we don't know how much they're bought for.
Right.
Right. And there are other companies that do this, right? That buy earlier, but not a lot. You see what happens here more. And again, like I said, there was this movement in like the early, like the 2010s around, Gary V hustle culture, et cetera, where Distill was set up inside Diageo and ZX Ventures was set up inside of ABI to do kind of what I'm talking about, but without actually doing it all, where they set up these venture funds and they were taking these bets and setting purchase prices ultimately, et cetera. And I think for Diageo, some of them really paid off. I mean, the most famous that was a Distill Venture brand was Mr. Black, right? So like that paid off hugely.
For sure, yeah.
But, then you have other brands maybe that didn't. I mean, I know like one of the brands in ZX Ventures, I remember when I went to meet with them, the very first year of VinePair was like Owl's Brew. I know it's still around, but like I don't know how big it is. Like, I don't know if that's been a huge payoff for them, but they were incubating brands like that. They were incubating small craft breweries that they thought could be bigger down the road. Yep. But that was the way to do it. And so I think even though that seemed to not fully work for both these companies for whatever reason, whether it was too much investment on the balance sheet, et cetera, I think the thinking there was right. The thinking of like, how do we get in earlier so we don't have to pay so much at the end was right. But like the just general idea of our economy rewards and things more highly of the big purchase, right? Of the fuck you money purchase than of the small little purchases. But again, I think the small little purchases ultimately pay off for the larger company if that's the goal.
So which do you think is riskier ultimately?
I think they both are. I think you take more small risks at the strategy I'm talking about because I'm talking about buying, 5 to 10 of these smaller brands potentially a year. maybe not that many. I'm talking about buying a lot of small brands to see what takes off. I mean, again, they already have to have traction. I'm not talking about buying something that someone has an idea and it's at one bar. I'm talking about brands that already have traction. But I think those are small risks that are easier, that for me at least, than the big risk. Like it's almost like buying stocks, right? If you buy a ton of small stock, like stocks that are in the beginning small, right? You have the potential for one of them to pop. Yeah, we could all buy into NVIDIA now, but like the likelihood that NVIDIA actually goes down and doesn't double again is higher, right?
Yeah.
The likelihood that it goes down instead of doubling is way higher.
Yeah.
So that's kind of but it looks like to most people, lay leaders, people who don't want to take a lot of risk, obviously telling someone that you bought NVIDIA is no one's be like, oh, Joanna, you bought NVIDIA? Like, you're stupid. No, some people might be like, I think it's going to go down. Are you sure you want to do that? But most people are like, oh yeah, like that's like one of the hottest stocks right now in the market. But again, if you said you bought a bunch of like stocks to educate them as to what those stocks are, that you did all this research, et cetera, people question, right? So that's I think why this always seems to happen.
So for ABI, this looks like a huge get.
Looks like a huge
for
get,
most people.
I think.
Yeah.
And we'll see if they. And again, I guess I don't. Saying ruin it is so mean. I don't. But like not ruin it, just like
we'll see what happens. With
not be able to do anything more than's been done with it already.
Yep.
And then ultimately it goes into decline. Like I just these big purchased brands are very, very hard to do more with. They just are.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's that they say, you know what, we're going to just take this. Maybe the way they make it bigger is they just take it global.
Yeah, sure.
Fine. And maybe there is an appetite for this type of drink around the world. I personally think that BeatBox is a very American thing, but who knows? I could be wrong.
I don't know how much of the world has like juice box nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Also, like, juice boxes. I don't see them as much as I used to. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Let us know what you think.
You are not going to enough of Estee's birthday parties. Let me tell you that much.
She's not really
juice boxes
a juice box
are
kid
alive
yet.
and kicking. Well, there you go.
We're not there yet. We're not. Maybe it's just that we're not there yet.
Yeah.
You know, we're still mixing like a little bit with water. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got those artisanal Brooklyn, like juice whole, fresh squeezed juice parties. I'm sure.
Fuck yeah, bro. Yeah. Let us know what you think, though. Hit us up at podcast@vinepair.com, and I'll talk to you both on Monday.
Have a nice weekend.
Sounds great.
Thanks so much for listening to the VinePair podcast, the flagship podcast of the VinePair Podcast Network. If you love this podcast, please leave us a rating or review wherever it is that you are currently listening to it on. It really helps other people discover the show. Also, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your colleagues. Basically, tell anyone about the VinePair podcast. It's always very appreciated, especially by Joanna. The podcast is hosted by myself, Adam Teeter, our editor-in-chief, Joanna Sciarrino, and Zach Jabal, former sommelier from Seattle, Washington. As we all know, it is edited by Darby Seaside. Theme music also by Darby Seaside. Art for the podcast by Daniel Grinberg. VinePair was co-founded by myself and Josh Mallon. Thanks so much again for listening, and we will see you again the next time you listen to an episode. If you made it all the way through these credits, I again consider you a super fan.